The other day I did an unboxing of my game of Stonesaga. I kickstarted this a couple years ago, finally arrived in the mail, and now finally trying it out. I need to make sure I turn off my mic in the home. So I'm not going to give an overview of everything right up front because there's just a lot going on in this game. But real quick, this is a open world solo slash co-op game where you basically are exploring this world, and it's very, I would say it's a crafting game, crafting survival game. There's not really a combat system in this game, unlike a lot of other um, campaigns type deck builder games. So I would say that makes it kind of different. A lot of these dungeon crawler type open world games do emphasize a combat system. This game does not, so that may either interest people or turn them away because obviously some people really appreciate the idea of having combat, some sort of combat system. With that said, it piqued my interest because it's doing a lot of things that give me that feel of playing PC games growing up, like RuneScape. If anyone played that growing up, in terms of the crafting aspect of RuneScape, again, obviously RuneScape has a lot of combat too, but this game does a lot of what I feel captures the crafting aspect and the grinding aspect of a game like RuneScape on PC, as well as more recently the game Valheim. This Valheim recently came out with its own licensed board game, and I didn't back that game because I love the PC game. I think the PC game's fantastic. It's a game that I just couldn't devote my life to, so I just kind of stopped playing it because I felt like I could spend hours upon hours playing that game. Um, but they came out with a board game version of Valheim, and I felt the Valheim board game version didn't really capture a lot of the key aspects of what I thought Valheim did as a PC game. Yet here, Stone Saga, I think, does almost a better job of capturing certain aspects of Valheim. So, just to give you an idea of what this game is. Again, Valheim also has a lot of combat in it, the PC game. So I don't want to give the impression this game has combat because it really doesn't. So, in short, what you're trying to do in a session of Stone Saga is complete one of these challenges, and in this case, they give you the starting challenge, which is called Seeds of Wind. As it says here, it says play this challenge to begin a new campaign, which is what I'm doing now, obviously. And it gives a little story here. Under the icy watch of the moon, your people found a passage into a primordial vale, long sealed by ancient glaciers. To survive, you'll need to find sustenance and a refuge for your people before winter. Set aside the remaining introductory goals for later use, then set up your valley. And once you've completed setup, flip this card. And down here in the corner, it says the immediate goals are survive the night and learn to fish. Already, I have found those two goal cards, and I'll put those over to the side so you can see what those look like. So one is survive the night, which just says when characters don't have enough energy, this activation energy, I think, is basically what that symbol refers to take actions. I'll hold this up a little closer. And survive the night. During the day, you access the features around you to gather resources and uncover secrets, but when you grow tired, you must hunker down to withstand the dangers of dusk and recover your energy. And then it says when characters don't have enough energy to take actions or when you have no other goals, proceed to the night phase. The rules for the night phase are found on rule pay blah blah. If needed, the rules for tests are from blah blah. This goal is to be completed after you complete. This goal is completed after you complete a night phase. All right. So that's what that one is. And then this one is learn to fish. The fish in the river are swift. Still, as you learn the patterns of the current, you find places to strike to grasp your prey. One character must fish at the lake by performing the action below. And you place it's called like an exhaustion token in your hex to fish. And This goal is completed after our character fishes. So basically, it's just this mission or this challenge is trying to teach you the basics of gameplay, and that is what we will go ahead and do. One thing I'll point out is there's this reference card that breaks down the key aspects of the game, the different actions. And it's quite simple in reality, okay? In this game, you're just moving around the map. Every action is pretty explanatory, self-explanatory. So moving is just going from hex to hex around the map. Exchanging is exchanging your equipment. Packing and unpacking is basically literally that. You're packing and unpacking things to manage your inventory. Aid is healing. Process, craft, build structure. These are all basically typical crafting computer game things that you'll be doing. You have to first mine the material, then you have to turn it into a tool, and then you use that tool to build something. So that's essentially what all these are doing. And then you have the actions based on your actual physical location on the board. So gather water, you need to be next to a water source. Prepare shelter, you need to be potentially next to a place where you can build shelter conveniently. Fish, you need also water source. Forage, I think that's most. I don't know if it has to be a forest necessarily. Mining is you need some sort of rocky type environment, and then those are those core actions. So and you're basically doing whatever set of these you think are going to be most helpful for you to complete your mission. And right now, we were told we need to learn to fish. So clearly, that is one right off the top that we should try to accomplish in order to meet our objective and proceed. So one other thing that I want to point out is this is my character. I named him Pell because they actually give you there's this big book called the Codex, which is mostly paragraph checks that will tell a story as you play the game. But also in the back of the Codex, there's this name chart that the game says you can use this if you want to come up with the name. So that's what I did and came up with Pell. Pell has the trait of being intrepid. That's one of the character creation aspects. Is you pick up you have to pick from a few different trait options, which are going to have different gameplay effects, which I don't know yet because I haven't. This is my first time playing. And then finally, you have the various attributes, which are generated via a die roll, and then age. When you start young, you can eventually get old, and then eventually you can become a legend, which actually means you're dead, but still exist in the game. So I won't spend much more time on that part. These are your action tokens in a 1 or 2 player game. It says you get 5 action tokens, 3 or 4, you actually only get 4. Basically, that's going to directly correlate to how many of the different actions you can complete during a day phase. And if you're following, after you use up all your action tokens, you then would move to the night phase and do a bunch of steps during that. In the solo game, so you can play this game with 4 other players or humans, and each human would control a character. This is actually called, in this game, this is called a mantle. That's just the term that they use for these hero type characters, for the protagonists, I guess. In a solo game, one option you can also include is a companion. Now, companions are actually and this represents the companion that I'm using. Companions are otherwise potentially found when playing a normal game of Stonesaga, but in a solo game, they say if you want, you can start with a companion to help make your life a little easier. Essentially, a companion is just a storage unit that walks with you, because storage is very important in this game to become efficient, and you only have so many actions in a day. So my understanding is inventory is extremely valuable. So having a companion that can help with that is important. And they also can do challenges potentially if that comes into play, but I don't feel like that necessarily will for me. Um, and apparently in expansions for the game, there are more than just one type of companion that do slightly different things. This companion explicitly says it can't move on its own, so it moves with you as you move around the map. All right, so let's go ahead and actually do an action, and we will start off with um, the fishing action because I do have a nice lake there, and we will go ahead and flip over two of my activation tokens to fish, and um, and then I think I follow. Yeah, well, we'll come across that as we go. So now I will go ahead and and then I place a, like I said, an exhaustion. There's a name for that type of token. Depletion. So that's another, I think, kind of cool aspect of this game is things become depleted. You can't just continuously go after the same source of materials over and over and over and over again. Eventually it becomes depleted. So we put one of these on the board to represent that this hex has one. I think it's representing for the whole hex too, but that there's been some sort of resource gathering in that hex, and it can only take so much of that before there's no more opportunity to do that. All right, so now let's move on to the actual action. And what I'm going to do here, so I'm not, which I think will be helpful, is show you guys the rule book so we can kind of read this together. The point of this is for me to learn as well as you all, and hopefully you can appreciate this joint learning opportunity. So here we get to fishing. Fish is a feature that allows characters, feature action meaning that in order to do this action on the board, I need to have a corresponding feature physically on the hex that I'm at. And I have this one, the lake. So I can do this feature action on where I'm located. It requires a player to roll dice and assign them to which we'll be doing, fishing cards. So while you all are reading that, I'm going to go ahead and get the relevant fishing cards out. And okay, I got the fishing cards, and then I think I shuffle them. We're going to be using 3 of these. Oh, jeez, I'm a mess. We're going to be using 3 of these cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Okay. So, as it says in the rules, I have to spend 2 energy, which I already did. Depletes the hex. Place a depletion there, indicating a draw of resources, which I did. I shuffle the fishing deck, which I'm doing. The player draws the top card of the fishing deck and places it vertically. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to do this off. I'll do this over here. So, yeah. So this is the stock. Basically, what I potentially can get is what I'm first looking at here, which is these 3 different materials. So food, fish, water, and 2 fish is what that actually represents. And then it also says I'll go back to the rules now. Go back to the rules. Oops, that's okay. All right. So it shows 3 groups of resources available to gain during this fish action, as well as the base difficulty associated with gaining those resources. The base difficulty is represented by a number. The higher that number, the greater the difficulty. So going back to the card that I drew, 3, 4, 5 are those base difficulties, which right now are very ambiguous in what that means, practically speaking. But, okay, reveal strike zone and currents. The player draws the top card of the fishing deck and places it horizontally with the side showing the strike zones. So I'm going to do that now over here, and I drew this one, and there we go. So I line it up like that, and none of that really means much right now, but that's the next step. The strike zones are where I'm going to be placing the different dice that I'm rolling. And now I'm rolling dice. So I roll 4 dice. If I have abilities that let me do that give me some sort of bonus, I would incorporate them now, which I don't as of yet. So I'm going to go ahead, get my handy dandy dice cup, roll some dice. All right, so this is what I rolled. I think higher is generally better. So really not that great of a roll, but I'll put these here for now because I'm going to quick go back to the rules. As it says, I roll the dice, now I assign the dice. The player assigns their dice to strike zones of their choice. So each of these little dotted boxes are what's called strike zones. And each small zone can have a single die. Bigger ones can have more. There's some symbols that have a mishap or a luck icon. And to assign dice, I just literally place them in the zones, respecting the maximum limit of dice per zone and presenting the die, blah, blah, blah. Player may choose to assign only 1 die to a large strike zone. A player does not have to assign all of the dice, and it can, in fact, leave none of the dice if there's that, blah, blah, blah. So, the player draws. I'm just going to kind of So I have to assign before the next step. So there's going to be modifiers that are going to be random that I don't know about yet. All right. So then looking at this is going to be difficult. I'll go ahead. I think I want food more than, well, I don't know what I want. The goal is just to fish, so I don't think it really matters even if I catch something or not, but this is... I'm going to go very hard, I guess, on this path. And hope this works out for me. I'll go through my logic here, or we'll go through the step-by-step together. So I did my dice. I assigned my dice. That was step 4. Now we go to reveal the modifiers. All right, so I'm going to reveal a third card from the fish deck. Stock, or whatever it's called. Yeah, fishing deck. And we'll do that now. So I got these modifiers. Which I think are okay for me because this was the path, basically. It's hard to... I'm calling them paths because that's what they look like to me, but basically I put my dice on the path for the 2 fish icon, and it ends up here at this modifier location, which is 0. So basically it started as a 5, it's still a 5 because it was plus 0. If I instead wanted to go for the single fish and put die on, I guess, that path, it would be now twice as hard, so it'd be a 6 instead of just 3, and then plus 2 would be added to this 4, so this one was also 6. So I actually ended up 5 this was down the easiest one, so that's kind of interesting how that can work out for you. All right. So resolve strike zones. We're going to do that now. During this step, the player resolves each strike zone that has 1 or more dice assigned to it. Each strike zone is resolved 1 at a time after all strike zones are resolve, the fish action is complete. To resolve a strike zone, a player compares the combined value of any dice in that zone to the final difficulty of one current of their choice that crosses that strike zone. Oh, okay. If the combined value is equal to or greater than the final difficulty of that current, the player succeeds at that strike zone and gains the resources indicated in the stock. Otherwise, the character fails at that strike zone and gains nothing. More than one strike zone intersecting the same current can be resolved. Player assign dice to each one. This helps players track which strike zone resolve. Blah blah blah. More than one strike zone intersecting the same current can be resolved if a player assigned dice to each one. I don't fully understand that sentence, but more than one strike zone interacting. Oh, yeah. Okay. I do have more than one strike zone to the same current. Now, if the player successfully that has a luck icon, I get this bonus. I get one additional fish. If I fail a strike zone that has a mishap, their character suffers a penalty. So then again, we're at lake, so I would lose one energy, and all right. So they give you an example in the rule book, but I'll do my real life example here for all of you to see, and quickly checking to see if there's messages. There's not. Okay. So we do strike zone, each dotted box one at a time. Okay, so I have dice in 3 different dotted boxes. The first one is this box here. I have 2 dice totaling 4. Okay, now we have a little bit of a problem because there's 2 currents that go through this strike zone. This one and this one. Now this one is a base 5. It ended up being modified by 0, so it's 5. But I only have 4, so that's less. So I wouldn't be successful with this one. This one is a 4, which at the start would be okay because I also have 4 here. So I could say I was going for this current, but sadly this current ends up being modified by +2 and it is now a total of 6. So again, I am too low, meaning my 4 that I assigned there is no good, and I have to take the penalty because it had this symbol on it, which because I was using, in case anyone forgot, because I was at a lake, which is again represented on the hex that I'm currently located at. Since it was a lake that I was fishing at, I then do the penalty associated with the lake, which in the rulebook says I lose 1 energy, which means I had 3 left, and unfortunately now I only have 2 left because of that penalty. So that was unfortunate. All right, so now I do my next strike zone, which is a 5. The only current that goes through this zone is this one, which again starts at a 5 but ends with no modifier, so also stays at a 5, meaning I do get this one. I am successful here, and this one has that lucky dice symbol. So what that means is I get 2 fish because of the symbol. That's what the stock value is for that space, so I will get 2 fish. But then because I had that lucky symbol, I get the bonus for a lake, which is 1 additional fish. So in fact, I'm getting 3 fish total for that strike zone. And if you're wondering where they go, we have a handy dandy inventory. Now this is probably, you can't see, but this is a dual layered board. So this is kind of an inlet. And these fish are double sided. A lot of the resource tokens are double sided. For food tokens, like a fish, one represents like fresh fish, one represents fish that's starting to get aged, as you can kind of see by the imagery. So when you first catch a fish, you catch a fresh fish, is what the rule's saying, in case anyone was wondering about that. So I will gladly put my fish in my little knapsack, and we move on to that last strike zone. And in this case, there was no symbol on this last one, and I had a 3. Unfortunately, there was 2 currents that go through this strike zone, the 5 one, and then this top one that gets modified by. So this is actually a 6. 3 is certainly less than both 5 or 6. So this was a failed attempt in the end. Yeah, so that concludes fishing, and I fished and I caught 3 fish. And again, going back to what I like about this game is everything just makes sense. The mini game that we just did with fishing is a little unique to me. I mean, whether that's fun or not, I guess is subjective, but I kind of just like the idea that I have to do a fishing action that is more than just a simple I catch a fish. It's a little mini game with a lot of different varieties of outcomes too. Might I add? You don't always just catch fish. That's the obvious thing that you would think you would do when fishing, but there's certainly a lot of other outcomes you can have when fishing. So, with that said, I still have 2 actions left. Now, what I'm not 100% sure of, I'm not going to take too much time to figure this out, is if I flip the challenge card right away, because it says this goal is completed after a character fishes, which I just did, and then I'll just flip it over. So first of all, like you only have 10 of these fishing cards, and you just always are shuffling them and reusing them over and over and over again. So you theoretically can get the same cards every time, but you're shuffling them, so that's not likely to happen. And oh yeah, so holding up the back of the fishing card, whether you're able to catch a fish or not, you know the valley's waters are teeming with life still. The sun is dipping, and your thoughts turn to where you will sleep tonight. So add learn to forage to your goals, and I have the stack of the other goals for this scenario over here. So right at the top, I happen to have learn to forage. Let's see what this one says. The plants and animals of the valley are unfamiliar to you. You'll have to look carefully to find useful objects in the tableau you build, all while avoiding predators that stalk the vale. One character must forage at the forest or prairie by performing the action below. You place a depletion token in your hex to forage using the foraging deck matching the feature where you are foraging. If placing a second depletion token, flip it. See page 59 for details. So that actually would be what we're doing right now, is placing a second if we wanted to do forage, which I'm going to say we should do, I'd be placing a second depletion token, which the rules just said. That means I need to flip the one that I already have there. Sorry, I'm just checking things here. And what I want to do real quick is pull up the rule book and check 59 to see what it says about depletion if I have to do another energy, because if that's the case, I don't have that. So a character draws upon the natural beauty of a hex by lodging, fishing, and mining. They exhaust that bounty, making further supplies harder to acquire. This diminishment of a hex resource is represented by a depletion token. Depletion tokens are double-sided. Each side has a major minor depletion icon to indicate the severity of the depletion. If a game effect instructs the players to deplete a hex and there are no depletion tokens in that hex, the players place a depletion token in the hex so that the minor plus... Okay. And that's unfortunate, I think, for us. Yeah. Okay, that's unfortunate. You're wondering why it's unfortunate. Well, normally a forge action is 2 energy. Unfortunately, because we already did a depletion here, um, the the forge action would be +1 energy, which means it's 3 total. Um, however, yeah. Now we could move to a new hex that doesn't have a depletion on it, and I'm thinking maybe that is what I want to try doing here, um, because that sounds kind of fun to explore. Obviously, I just want to then jump to page 25 where it explains moving. It says it's generally just 1 energy, so I'm assuming there's no move the move action and blah blah blah. To resolve a move, a player takes their character miniature from the train it currently occupies, places on an adjacent hex. Character does not have to spend any energy to begin a move action. However, they may have to spend energy after moving. If the player wants to move the character to an adjacent unexplored hex, they must reveal a hex before moving their miniature. A character must move to that hex after revealing it that way. Um, all right, so we will go. Yeah, we will go. We're gonna go ahead and do the movement. So I'm just gonna go over here. I flip it. Now I have to go here. That giant eggshell looking thing. I don't even know what that is, to be honest with you. It's pretty intense looking. I'm not actually sure what that is either. That looks like a forest to me. I'm sure at the back of the codex maybe there's an iconography. Nope, not back of the codex. Well, let me. There's got to be a well, I guess I won't worry about that right at this second. Maybe it's in the main rule book. I just want to see if there's some sort of. Oh wait. Oh my. Okay, so there were. I should have been looking at these this whole time. I apologize, guys. So there's reference cards. In first game setup, I should have. I was not using these at all. First game setup. Jeez. Well, that's too bad. These do come with the game. So, terrain. Unfortunately, okay. So this is a cave. That's definitely a cave. And that's definitely forest. I no idea what the cracked giant eggshell thing is. I'm sure there's something to discover there, but without knowing what it is, I'm just gonna have to ignore it for now. So anyway, now okay, going back to moving, which there's not a cheat sheet for moving, so I'm gonna go back to the rules for it. After a player moves their miniature, whether they moved it to an unexplored or explored, they must draw and reveal a journey card. To do this, player draws a card. So there's this deck of journey cards. I already shuffled them, so I'm going to draw the top one, and I have to resolve it. So we'll put it over here to see what it is, and it says resolve if your hex has a chasm, glacier, moraine, or mountain. Dang. Well, I don't know if it's good or not. Did I say it had, or did I say it has a mountain? I literally was just talking about that feature. No, that's a cave. Yeah. Certainly a cave. Not a mountain. So I think the answer is no. It doesn't have any of these features, and therefore I resolve an arduous journey. Now, what does arduous journey means? We can read through that together. An arduous journey represents a character's trek through terrain features when moving while performing a move action. If the conditions on a journey card are not satisfied, that card is discarded and an arduous journey is resolved. To resolve an arduous journey, characters checks the shared edge between the terrain hex they moved from and the terrain hex they moved to. If one or more terrain features covers the entire shared hex of either edge of either hex, the path between the two hexes is obstructed. If a path is obstructed, the character must lose 1 energy. If the path is not obstructed, the character's move action ends without them spending any energy. I was mumbling and jumbling. Long story short, this is the shared edge. There is no feature that is covering the full edge. Just to illustrate what that could look like, if I had crossed, I guess, if the orientation was like this and I crossed, well then there's a forest that covers the full edge, and therefore this would have been an arduous journey. You can see too over on this one, if this was like that and I crossed over, then it would have been an arduous journey. So there's this little bit of fog of war element where when you're going into a new hex, you don't know for sure. You know what you're coming out of if there's a shared terrain feature from where you're moving from, but not necessarily where you're moving to if it's unexplored. So I think that's a little that's kind of thematic. What that does mean, though, at the end of the day, is I moved without having to worry about expending an energy, which now means I'm in a new hex that doesn't have a depletion token on it, which means I can now go ahead and do a forge action, which requires 2 energy, which I do have, and that is what I'm going to do right now. So I'm spending 2 energy to go ahead and move forward with the, with that, whatchamacallit, foraging. Now, foraging is very interesting and how it's resolved. Some, again, just like with fishing, some may like this, some may not. So first it says shuffle the corresponding foraging deck. I'm going to pull up, there's this cheat sheet, but I'm someone that's just like I'm such a rule stickler that I really just need to read what it says in the rule book. So this is page 43 is where the rules for foraging occur. And I know I have to, again, look through a deck. Okay, so I'm doing a forest, so I first have to make sure I have the forest cards. The forest forage cards. Which I do now. And character requiring action while they are on a turn it contains a forest or prairie. As you explore new regions, you may find other features at which you can forage. So when foraging, a player uses the deck, which I'm doing right now, shuffling the right one. And there's 3 sections. This is where it gets kind of wonky because it's not super, I mean, I'm hoping it's clear once I start playing the game, but this part is really interesting to me, how it breaks up. It's thematic in the sense you're literally looking at, the world you're walking around in, and it's trying to illustrate depth perception. I do appreciate thematically what's going on here. Mechanically, I worry that sometimes things might not be obvious. So the first step of the forge action is searching. When searching, the player creates a tableau of face-up foraging cards. The tableau begins with a single card and can be expanded with additional cards to provide more options for harvesting or hunting. However, expandable can be dangerous. The cards in a character's tableau can be placed, moved, and organized in any manner. The order of the cards in the tableau does not impact gameplay. To search, the character draws the top 2 cards from the foraging deck that corresponds to the feature where they are foraging. Then they choose 1 card to place face up in their play area and 1 card to shuffle back into the foraging deck. The face up card is the card in the foraging tableau. So we will go ahead and do that part now. So it says I draw 2 and I reveal 2. Alright, and I reveal them. Right away. So this is considered a predator of some kind. I don't know what the exact creature name would be. But there's kind of distinct depths. So the back is, I guess, 1 tree. That's where it gets kind of a little artistically interesting. So here the back is showing 2 trees. Here the back is showing 1 tree. Then there's like the middle area. Here the middle area is that red plant looking thing and a predator. Here it's that bushy thing and a predator. And then we have the front. So on here the front is the red looking thing and a tree. Here we have a tree and the bush. I genuinely am not sure if this means anything, the mushroom, or if this thing means anything. I do think each of these 3 things on the tree mean something, or those are like bonus items. I'm going to go with this one because I just kind of want to get the tree and the bonus items is how I'm thinking about it right now. We'll go back to the rules, though, to see if I am missing anything. So after a character draws 2 cards, if there's at least 1 predator already in that character's tableau, they must obey the following rules when choosing which card is added to their tableau. Oh. If the character must add the card that has a fable. Well, they both had a predator in the middle area, so I don't think I have to worry about this. The player performing the foraging action can repeat the searching process any number of times until the deck is exhausted, placing 1 new card in. I don't know what deck is exhausted means because it said I shuffle it back into the deck. Draws top 2. Then they choose 1 card face up and 1 card shuffle back. Okay, whatever. Maybe that means literally all the cards. Placing the 1 new card into the tableau for every 2 they draw. However, if predator is ever in the foreground of a card in the tableau, the player's character is spotted and must encounter it. This ends the searching step and prevents the character from harvesting. So there's like this is like a push your luck element to it where you're drawing these cards, and sometimes you might get a card with a predator right in your face, and thematically it's like, you got to deal with that. So that's the risk of continuing to draw cards. But the reward is you might get something that has a lot more value in terms of options of what you can obtain. So after a player decides to stop searching, they choose whether to have their character harvest or hunt. Oh yeah, because you can hunt. I forgot about that part. Harvest allows a character to gain resources from bounty objects in their tableau. There are 5 types of bounty objects a character can harvest. Okay, so going back, let's identify that part. So the thing on the left is obviously a tree. The bush on the right, I'm not 100% sure what that is still. I'm not seeing that as any of those 5. Yeah, I don't know what that is. All right, well, maybe that's part of the world that we like, where we just don't know what some of these things are yet. Um, and I don't know what to say about that. But that's the uniqueness of this game. During a single Forge action, character can only harvest one type of bounty object, but they can harvest up to 3 objects of that type. For example, if a player chooses to have their character harvest rip plants, the character can harvest multiple rip plants during the same action, but they cannot harvest any grain crops during that action. So, to harvest a bounty object, it must be within the character's reach. All objects in the foreground are always within reach. Objects in the background, mid-ground are within reach if the character has harvested one object of the same type in the foreground. Objects in the background are within reach if the character... So, I don't know how to explain this very clearly, but you need something in the first row for period. Then you can get something, another of that thing, if there's a card that shows it in the second row. And then you can get something in the back row if you also got something in the second row. And a total of, you can only get a total of 3 things of that, of whatever it is you are going for. And by default, a character can harvest a maximum of 3 objects during a forge action. These objects can come from the same or different cards, so as long as they are within reach. Each object will yield at least 1 resource. Occasionally, hidden within or around the primary objects, there are bonus resources. And that's where I thought, that's what I thought these might be. Those look like coral to me, which I don't know why it's not explicitly stated. I don't know what that little guy is, and I still don't know what the thing is on the right. So what's immediately not clear to me is if I'm able to get things that aren't explicitly stated that I can get. And that's what it's kind of pointing out here, is that's the bonus resources are just kind of hidden in there. Then it explains how you can hunt, and how that works. I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. What I will do, though, is just for the sake of it, I'm going to push my luck. I'm going to do one more forge draw, because I'm going to go for trees. I'm just going to make it simple. I'm going to go for trees, which means I'm going to get wood. So I'm going to do one more random draw here of 2 cards. Okay, so I just want to double check the rules about the predator thing one more time. I think there's this little hierarchy chart. If there's at least one predator already in that character's tableau, they must obey the following rules when choosing which card is added to their tableau. The character must add the card that has a predator depicted on it, if able. The character must choose between 2 cards that have... Okay, that sucks. Because I think that means I have to take this one. I don't know what if able means, but... And I'm going to assume they're like friends or something. That's how I thematically am looking at it. Which makes me want to try again, because I really wanted to get one more tree out of all of this. So here we go. 2 more cards. We don't want a predator in our face. No, okay, perfect. So I'm going to go with this one. Oh, wait a second. No, let's do this one. All right, so this is a good example. Yeah. Okay, sorry. So here we go. This is how this works, I think. I'm getting 1 tree plus... So within reach is the first row I get is there's a tree here, so I can go for that tree. Then I can start going for something in the second row, which over here there is a tree in this second row. So then I'm like walking over here. Oh, look, and then there's 2 more trees. Now I can only get 3 total trees, so I technically could be getting 4 trees but the rules say only 3. So I go from here to here to that back there. I'm getting 3 wood for all my foraging efforts. And to represent the 3 wood that I'm getting, there's tokens for that, as you can imagine, that look like this. And here's my 3 wood tokens that I will happily place into my inventory. All right, so I got my wood. Now, when we go back, I still don't fully understand what I'm supposed to do with these bonus resource things that I don't know what they are. Maybe I'm supposed to just think about looking them up on my own. I don't know. I'm not too worried about it. This is kind of a learning game. Over here, that's clearly 2 mushrooms. That was pretty blatantly, in my opinion, stated here that mushrooms are, these are called bonus resources. So I will gladly take my 2 extra shrooms and just got to find them from one of these trays. Sometimes things are... Here we go. So 2 shrooms. Put those in my inventory as well. And that's foraging. In a nutshell. I think like I said, you can also hunt. Hunting has even a little more additional rules to it. If someone, I don't think, I'll quickly, I was ignoring the chat. Hopefully no one was yelling at me about what to do with doesn't look like it. What to do with those symbols I wasn't sure about. All right. So, and I'm going to double check one more time. Oops. That's a little wonky. I'm going to double check one more time to make sure I tied up all loose ends when it comes to the forage action. Yeah, because then we get into mining. So... Oh, I didn't even do the very first step of... Yeah. If anyone... one thing that I know I missed here was the depletion token on my hex. Yeah. So, take one of those depletion tokens and place one on this hex to show that I did the foraging action. And now I'm out of energy. When you're out of energy, that's when you would move on to the night phase. And I'm going to stop here just because I might want to try to read ahead a little bit to make sure I smoothly go through the night phase. But that gives you a pretty good idea of, I don't know, 25% of the game. I'll just say that. It's certainly the foraging... I think once you do it a couple of times, it becomes pretty simple. There's not a lot of complexity to how this foraging system works. There's not a lot of complexity to how that fishing system works. It's just very novel. It's not like anything you've seen in any other game, and it is thematic. Like it's trying to make this... The game really tries to pull you in thematically, and I have no problem with that. It does feel like you're certainly exploring a world in an analog fashion. So I was really excited to finally get this game to the table from reading the rule book, and so far I'm enjoying myself. I think the rules too are pretty clear on things, other than, like I said, like how to deal with the symbology. There's just a lot of, if you haven't picked up on this yet, there's a lot of iconography and there's a lot of imagery. Right? Like, you don't just need to know what all the icons in this game mean, but you need to know what all the different plants and animals, like, which, again, I mean, that's kind of thematic. It's kind of like making you have to learn the world you're going through, which is kind of a cool idea. But anyway, thanks so much for watching this. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Talking Cardboard YouTube channel, or follow us on TikTok if you are watching the TikTok live, or And let me know in the comments if you have this game yourself, what you think about it, if you've played it, if you've played it with a group, if you've been playing it solo, if you have any questions about the rules, that sort of thing. But yeah, this is a game I don't really see a lot of buzz about online. I don't think people think it's a bad game. I just think it's a game that's kind of gone under the radar. So that's part of the reason why I really wanted to do this playthrough and show it off to others. So with that said, thanks again for watching.